Hey everybody, welcome back to the wood shop. I'm Jim Viebrock with Maintenance Minute, and it's a beautiful spring day here in the Ozarks. So we're going to make some planter boxes today. These are made out of dog-ear fence boards. These happen to be cedar dog-ear fence boards. You don't want to use the ones that are made out of CCA because the arsenic that's in there will have a detrimental effect to your plants. So you can make these whatever length you want. I'm actually going to build these to fit these wire frames that my wife bought at a big box retailer. And today we're going to take your basic woodworking skills and teach you a new skill. We're going to do bevels today. And then in a future video, we're going to build on this principle to do compound bevels. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we need to do is determine what our bevels are, these angles here. As you can tell, my box is beveled on all four sides. So I was actually lucky enough that my wife bought this wire frame that she wanted these boxes to sit in, and it has angles right here. So I went and got me a piece of scrap, and it happens to be masonite, it can be whatever you want to, and I drew a line along here, and then I took it over to my miter saw and determined that this angle was 15 degrees, or really close to it. So I just set my saw at 15 degrees, and that's what I went from there. So then I went and measured here and made me a test piece just to see how well it was going to fit, because I want my piece to sit down in there nice and snug. So I had a piece then that I could call somewhat of a pattern to make the actual pattern. So I took a dog-ear board and used this pattern to transfer, and then I made a full-length piece, and you'll discover that it sits in there just nice. Okay, so now it's leaned back this way. Now the angle this way though is not quite 15 degrees. It was more like 7.5, so that's what I used for the rest of this. Now you will find as you build these boxes, 15 degrees works well on both ends or all four sides. 11 degrees works really well on all four sides. You don't have to have a complicated compound miter saw to make these cuts. You can do them with just a straight miter saw, a hand miter saw that doesn't cost very much at your big box retailer. So we're going to use a miter saw today and a table saw today, and then I'm going to use pneumatic staplers to put it together. You can use 4-penny galvanized nails. So let's go cut our first piece. Okay, I'm over at my compound miter saw. Again, you can use a regular hand miter saw or a regular miter saw to do this. So you don't need this fancy tool to do this. So here's my pattern that I did. So I'm going to lay it down here on my dog-eared fence board, and I'm going to make a mark along here, and then I'm going to follow it with my blade just to make sure that I've got it set the way I want it. So I'll pull this down and I'll run it along here. I have this set at 15 degrees and it's following that just fine. So I'm going to cut this off. Okay, now so I have my first one, and since I made a pattern, I can then take this and without changing my saw, flip that over, put my pattern on here, and again I'm set at 15 degrees, make that mark right along there, and then I'm going to pull my blade down and just make sure that everything looks right, and then cut it again. Okay, so there's my end piece, and if I was going to make a bunch of these, I would label this pattern so that I would use all of them the same from here. I need 2 of these per box. Okay, since I'm doing a basic version of this box, I'm not going to worry about beveling the tops and the bottoms of these. Now that's going to make for an uneven edge on here. We'll sand off later, not a big deal. These are going to go outside, so they're going to weather and warp and everything. So I don't need to be as precise as if I was building furniture or something like that. The follow-up video to this is going to be where we build a serving tray that has the compound bevels. And by that I mean they're going to have bevels on the top and bottom runs of these so that when it's all put together, it all planes around the top and bottom. But today we're just learning how to do the regular bevel. So I've got 2 pieces. These are the ends at 15 degrees. So if I was just building a box that's not custom made for a tray, I would probably just stick with the 15 degrees through the whole project. But I have to fit that wire frame over there, and so it actually turns out that this is going to be 7.5 degrees. So it's not quite as pronounced leaning over as it would be. But if you were going to do this just using 15 degrees, here's what your sides would look like. You would just put them together like this. Now we need to determine the length that we're going to use in our piece. In my case, the overall length is 36 inches because I'm fitting the wire frame. You make these however long you want. It'll be way more efficient use of your lumber if you make them 30 inches or less. Do the math on how much material you need, board feet and so forth. 30 inches or less, you'll use way fewer pickets, but that's not the luxury I have today. And normally if you watch my videos, you see I maximize my lumber all the time. So I'm going to have a little bit of scrap today that I wouldn't ordinarily have. So in this case then, I'm going to start to make the long run pieces. So if you're going to do 15 degrees all the way around, just stick with that. I'm going to go determine what this measurement is, same way I did before, and it was about 7.5. So I'm going to go over and start cutting my long pieces. Okay, I've got my long fence board here. I've already tailed it off at the 7.5 degrees that I needed. Be sure and look for staples in the end of the boards. You don't want to run that through your blade. It'll dull your blade. So I could move this saw every time, but I'm going to measure this from the other side. So I'm going to flip it over because I want my bevels to go like this, not like this or like this. I need them to point towards each other on the small end. And since my boards are just under 3/4 of an inch, I need to go from 36 down to 34.5 and to mark like that. And then now my board is facing the right direction. So I'll just pull this down and make my cut. Here is my first side. Now, all I have to do now is use this piece as a pattern, like that. But I'm going to want to flip it back over again so that I get everything going the right direction. And flush it up on the end. Make a mark down here. And that'll tell me where to make my second cut. Okay, we're ready to start assembling just a little bit. I've got my pneumatic nailer out. I've got staples in here. I got some pretty long ones. They're about 1.25 inches or so. This material's 3/4 inch, a little bit less than 3/4 of an inch thick. So what I like to do is assemble these upside down because I want the tops to be as flush as possible. So the end piece goes on like this, and I'm just simply going to flush this up along this seam right here. Just flush it up and then assemble it. Just like that. Now, if you don't have pneumatic stuff, go get a 4-penny galvanized nail. You want to use galvanized because these are going to be outside in the weather. They'll be getting wet all the time, and they will rust, and you'll have then a, what they call bleeding happening, and it's kind of unsightly on the cedar. So I'm using galvanized staples, and again, I just flush it up. Like that. I'm going to flip it over. Do the same thing. Just like that. And now we'll make the bottom. Okay, I want to start to put together the bottom of the planter. It wedges towards the center on all 4 sides, so there's a bevel on all 4 sides. So I want to start that. I've just set my saw, I've laid my blade over to about 15 degrees, and I just want it to take just the edge off of this board here, and so I can put that 15-degree bevel on this one side. Okay, now I have both ends, or both sides I mean, beveled, and I can start to piece this together. Now, to figure that, what I did is I turned this upside down, and I just laid my tape in there and got what my bottom, the thin part, needs to be. And in my case, it's 4 inches. So when I was done with the way I set my saw up and cut this, I ended up with 4 inches here on the bottom side of the wedge. So that'll go all the way down and fit nice and neat. And these edges will fit against the sides. So I need to figure now the bottom. Okay, now that I've got the length beveled on both sides and they're pointing towards each other, Then I need to cut it to length. So to do that, I need to start by cutting it this way. And again, I'm pointing all of them to the center, so I want to point my bevels inward. And this setting is the same as the setting you used previously. If you used the 15 degrees, use that. In my case, it's the 7.5. So we're going to just trim the end. Now I have 3 of my 4 bevels. Okay. So now I'm going to take it back over to my work table. Okay, I have 3 of my 4 bevels now. So here's the one that is finished. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it face up on here. And I'm just going to set my project right over on top of it. And then I'm going to be able to draw a line inside here on the bottom where my other bevel needs to end. Okay? So there's my mark. And I know that that bevel will need to go that way. So I'll take it back over and cut it at the compound miter saw. Okay, we're almost done, and our project's been a lot of fun today. A very quick project, and once you learn these new skills, you can apply them to future projects that makes your woodworking skills a lot better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is drop it face down into the planter box, and sometimes you have to force it just a little bit, and it lined up pretty good. So I'm going to start to attach this. Here we go. And sometimes you just adjust it as you go. Really ought to be doing it this way so that you can see what I'm doing. That's going to be awkward for me, but just a few staples along the way. And then you flip it over. Do the same thing. Like I say, this isn't a piece of furniture, so don't sweat it if it doesn't fit just right. And that was my last staple, so I think before I'm done, I'll probably put 1 or 2 in the ends. But there you go, guys. This will sit right down in your planter box, just like it's supposed to, or you can attach it to the deck directly. Get you some L brackets and attach it to the deck directly. Hey, if you like this kind of stuff, please like and subscribe to my channel. There'll be comments and stuff in the bottom. Leave your comments, in the bottom, and there'll be links to other videos. Thanks for watching.